throws it away. Perishes. Like a firebrand used at a funeral. Better to eat an iron ball. Glowing, aflame. Than that, unprincipled and unrestrained. He should eat the alms of the country.
This was said by the Blessed One, said by the Arahant, so I have heard, even if a monk, taking hold of my outer cloak, were to follow right behind me, placing his feet in my footsteps, yet if he were to be greedy for sensual pleasures, strong in his passions, malevolent in mind, corrupt in his resolves, his mindfulness muddled, unalert, uncentered, his mind scattered, and his faculties uncontrolled, then he would be far from me, and I from him. Why is that? Because he does not see the Dhamma. Not seeing the Dhamma, he does not see me. But even if a monk were to live 100 leagues away, yet if he were to have no greed for sensual objects, were not strong in his passions, not malevolent in mind, uncorrupt in his resolves, his mindfulness established, alert, centered, his mind its singleness, and his faculties well restrained, then he would be near to me, and I to him. Why is that? Because he sees the Dhamma. Seeing the Dhamma, he sees me.
Though following right behind. Full of desire, vexation. See how far he is. The perturbed. From the unperturbed. The bound. From the unbound. The greedy one. From the one with no greed. But the wise person who, through direct knowledge of Dhamma, gnosis of Dhamma, grows still and unperturbed, like a lake unruffled by wind. See how close he is. The unperturbed to the unperturbed. The unbound to the unbound. The greedless one to the one with no greed.
This was said by the Blessed One, said by the Arahant, so I have heard, monks, there are these three fires. Which three? The fire of passion, the fire of aversion, the fire of delusion. These, monks, are the three fires. The fire of passion burns in a mortal. Excited, smitten. With sensual desires. The fire of aversion in a malevolent person. Taking life. The fire of delusion in a bewildered person. Ignorant of the noble teaching.
Not understanding these fires, people. Fond of self-identity. Unreleased from Mara's shackles. Swell the ranks of hell. The wombs of common animals, demons. The realm of the hungry shades. While those who, day and night, are devoted to the teachings of the rightly self-awakened, put out the fire of passion, constantly perceiving the foul. They, superlative people, put out the fire of aversion, with goodwill, and the fire of delusion, with the discernment leading to penetration.
They, the masterful, untiring by day and night, having put out the fires, having, without remainder, comprehended stress, are, without remainder, totally unbound. They, the wise, with an attainer of wisdoms, noble vision, right gnosis, directly knowing the ending of birth, come to no further becoming.
This was said by the Blessed One, said by the Arahant, so I have heard, a monk should investigate in such a way that his consciousness neither externally scattered and diffused, nor internally fixated he is, from lack of clinging/sustenance, unagitated, and there is no seed for the origination of future birth, aging, death, or stress. For a monk who has abandoned 7 attachments and cut the guide, the wandering on in birth is finished. There is no further becoming. Note: the 7 attachments are passion, aversion, delusion, views, conceit, defilement, and misconduct. The guide is craving, which leads to becoming.
This was said by the Blessed One, said by the Arahant, so I have heard, there are these 3 ways of obtaining sensual pleasures. Which 3? Those whose sensual pleasures are already provided, those who delight in creating, those with control over what is created by others. These are the three ways of obtaining sensual pleasures. Devas whose pleasures are already provided. Those with control. Those who delight in creation. And any others enjoying sensual pleasures. In this state here. Or anywhere else. Don't go beyond. The wandering on. Knowing this drawback. In sensual pleasures, the wise should abandon all sensual desires. Whether human or divine.
Having cut the flow of greed. For lovely, alluring forms. So hard to transcend. Having, without remainder. Comprehended stress. They are, without remainder. Totally unbound. They, the wise, with an attainer of wisdoms. Noble vision. Right gnosis. Directly knowing the ending of birth. Come to no further becoming. Note. As the verse makes clear, these three categories denote three levels of devas in the heavens of sensual pleasure. Those in control are at the highest of these levels.
This was said by the Blessed One, said by the Arahant, so I have heard, tied by the yoke of sensuality in the yoke of becoming, one is a returner, returning to this state. Untied from the yoke of sensuality but tied by the yoke of becoming, one is a non-returner, not returning to this state. Untied from, both, the yoke of sensuality and from the yoke of becoming, one is an Arahant whose fermentations are ended.
Tied by both. The yoke of sensuality. And the yoke of becoming. Beings go to the wandering on. Leading to birth. And death. Those who've abandoned the sensual. Without reaching the ending of fermentations. Are tied by the yoke of becoming. Are said to be non-returners. While those who've cut off doubt. Have no more conceit. Or further becoming. They who have reached. The ending of fermentations. While in the world. Have gone. Beyond.
This was said by the Blessed One, said by the Arahant, so I have heard, a monk who has admirable virtue, admirable qualities, and admirable discernment is called, in this Dhamma and Vinaya, one who is complete, fulfilled, a superlative person. And how is a monk a person with admirable virtue? There is the case where a monk is virtuous. He dwells restrained in accordance with the Padamaka, consummate in his behavior and sphere of activity. He trains himself, having undertaken the training rules, seeing danger in the slightest faults. In this way a monk is a person with admirable virtue. Thus he is of admirable virtue.
And how is a monk a person with admirable qualities? There is the case where a monk lives devoted to developing the 7 sets of qualities that are wings to awakening. In this way a monk is a person with admirable qualities. Thus he is of admirable virtue and admirable qualities. And how is a monk a person with admirable discernment? There is the case where a monk, through the ending of fermentations, dwells in the awareness release and discernment release that are free from fermentation, having known and made them manifest for himself right in the present life. In this way a monk is a person with admirable discernment. Thus he is of admirable virtue, admirable qualities, admirable discernment. In this Dhamma and Vinaya he is called one who is complete, fulfilled, a superlative person.
Devoid of wrongdoing. In thought, word, or deed. He's called a person of admirable virtue. The monk conscientious. Well developed in the qualities that go to the attainment of self-awakening. He's called a person of admirable qualities. The monk unassuming. Discerning right here for himself. In himself.
The ending of stress. He's called a person of admirable discernment. The monk with no fermentation. Consummate in these things. Untroubled, with doubt cut away. Unattached in all the world. He's said to have abandoned the all.
This was said by the Blessed One, said by the Arahant, so I have heard, there are these two kinds of gifts, a gift of material things and a gift of the Dhamma. Of the two, this is supreme, a gift of the Dhamma. There are these two kinds of sharing, sharing of material things and sharing of the Dhamma. Of the two, this is supreme, sharing of the Dhamma. There are these two kinds of assistance: assistance with material things and assistance with the Dhamma. Of the two, this is supreme, help with the Dhamma.
The gift he describes as foremost and unsurpassed. The sharing the Blessed One has extolled. Who confident in the supreme field of merit, wise, discerning, wouldn't give it at appropriate times, both for those who proclaim it and those who listen. Confident in the message of the One well gone, it purifies their foremost benefit. Those heeding the message of the One well gone.
This was said by the Blessed One, said by the Arahant, so I have heard. It's on the strength of Dhamma that I describe a person as a brahman with threefold knowledge, and not another as measured by citing and reciting. And how is it on the strength of Dhamma that I describe a person as a brahman with threefold knowledge, and not another as measured by citing and reciting? There is the case where a monk recollects his manifold past lives, i.e., 1 birth, 2, 5, 10, 50, 100, 1,000, 100,000, many eons of cosmic contraction, many eons of cosmic expansion, many eons of cosmic contraction and expansion. There I had such a name, belonged to such a clan, had such an appearance. Such was my food, such my experience of pleasure and pain, such the end of my life. Passing away from that state, I re-arose there. There too I had such a name, belonged to such a clan, had such an appearance. Such was my food, such my experience of pleasure and pain, such the end of my life. Passing away from that state, I re-arose here. Thus he recollects his manifold past lives in their modes and details.
This is the first knowledge he has attained. Ignorance has been destroyed, knowledge has arisen, darkness has been destroyed, light has arisen, as happens in one who is heedful, ardent, and resolute. Then again, the monk sees by means of the divine eye, purified and surpassing the human beings passing away and reappearing, and I discerned how they are inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate in accordance with their actions. These beings who were endowed with bodily misconduct, verbal misconduct, and mental misconduct, who reviled noble ones, held wrong views and undertook actions under the influence of wrong views at the breakup of the body after death, have reappeared in the plane of deprivation, the bad destination, the lower realms, in hell. But these beings who were endowed with bodily good conduct, verbal good conduct, and mental good conduct, who did not revile noble ones, who held right views and undertook actions under the influence of right views at the breakup of the body, after death, have reappeared in the good destinations in the heavenly world. Thus by means of the divine eye, purified and surpassing the human, he sees beings passing away and reappearing, and discerns how they are inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate in accordance with their actions.
This is the second knowledge he has attained. Ignorance has been destroyed, knowledge has arisen, darkness has been destroyed, light has arisen, as happens in one who is heedful, ardent, and resolute. Then again, the monk with the ending of fermentations remains in the fermentation-free awareness release and discernment release, having directly known and made it manifest for himself right in the present life.
This is the third knowledge he has attained. Ignorance has been destroyed, knowledge has arisen, darkness has been destroyed, light has arisen, as happens in one who is heedful, ardent, and resolute. It's in this way that, on the strength of Dhamma, I describe a person as a brahman with threefold knowledge, and not another as measured by citing and reciting.
He knows his former lives. He sees heavens and states of woe. Has attained the ending of birth. Is a sage who has mastered full knowing. By means of these three knowledges, he becomes a three-knowledge Brahman. He's what I call a three-knowledge man. Not another. Citing, reciting. Note: in the Brahmanical religion, a three-knowledge man was one who had memorized the three Vedas. This verse takes the Brahmanical term and gives it a new, Buddhist meaning.